Well, hello again. Facebook's messing with me again, I see. Anyway, I'm back and I am going to finish the first half of my video and doing a second video, live video. And I am on where they had fabricated false allegations to the grand jury by Glendale detective Christine Britt, the forced court-appointed attorney Laura Anderson for the push for the Rule 11 when that was not even necessary, because they had me when Wendy Morton, the charges was for the same charges that were from the indictment. It wasn't because of the Rule 11 or this fraud, okay? Fraud upon trumping up the retaliation, given an appearance that they had to do what they did to me, okay? But it just only furthers the fraud, to prove the fraud that they committed against me and the fraud upon the court. Because when I was arrested the second time, the charges for the arrest the second time was the same charges for the indictment. Okay, not because I violated a court order and not because of the Rule 11. Okay? It's all documented. All the parties, like I said, they are working together in concert like a symphony of debauchery. So they give off the illusion that they are giving due process while denying due process, or doing the law in motion waltz. It's a dance. It's entertainment with it. A college-educated mother fighting for the return of, they're going to put their attention on a fit-loving mother and retaliate against them and have them put in prison for a crime they didn't commit. But yet they're going to ignore real crime, and not put real murderers away and real rapists, and they're just wasting time and wasting state resources. Something's got to give here. They've been caught fabricating evidence against me. I call them out, they throw out the dockets, and the only reason why they're throwing it out, it has my son's name on it. Okay? And I don't even think it would change even if I didn't have my son's name on it. With the evidence I have, they would still throw it out. This is their modus operandi. They are all working together in concert to deny critical material evidence that speaks out on my behalf, that exonerates me. They omit fraudulent evidence against me during a long period of time. See, that's why they set up the stage for the trial. They omit evidence. They omit critical material evidence denying due process. While given the illusion of due process, they deny due process. They omit the critical material evidence. Because half of the cases wouldn't even go to trial if they actually took a look at the evidence. But they choose to instead to commit fraud upon the court. That's why you have so many innocent men and women sitting in jails and prisons. Because of this. Given the illusion of due process while denying due process. They have omitted fraudulent evidence. They admit fraudulent evidence against me during a long period of time with the intent of extensive litigation that seems to hide any and all omissions. their omissions of my critical evidence. They're given the illusion of due process while denying me due process. It's all about denying all the facts here. Denying the fact that my son was medically kidnapped to cover for their malpractice. And that I'm a fit-loving mother. All I wanted to do is confirm a doctor's medical opinion. They want to hide that fact too as well from the jury. The judge will always rule in the prosecution's and the public pretender's behalf. And see, they were like a pack of wolves huddling at the judge's bench, pushing for the Rule 11. They think I'm like a little baby lamb with a broken leg. That's how they see me. They're a wolf pack. They're like a wolf pack of hungry wolves. And they see me laying on the ground with a broken leg like a lamb, little lamb. That's what they think of me as. An easy target. In regards to omission of evidence and omitting of evidence, the officers of the court work together in symphony to obstruct and to suppress direct evidence, critical material evidence, sneakily and subtly, so the court watchers do not catch it. Okay? Court watchers, I'm speaking to you now. Okay? You don't catch this because they're giving the appearance of due process. Okay? And anyone sitting in the court, they'll think, oh, they're giving that woman due process. They're doing it by the book. Yeah. Because you know why? They omit critical evidence. They omit it from the court records, the court docket, so that nobody can see it. The public can't see it, and neither the public can see it, nor can the jury. And there's where we have a big problem. Okay? The omitting of critical material evidence that exonerates the injured party. Okay? And they claim they're the ones that are injured. The state. This is why you have so many innocent men and women flooding the prisons. Okay? And this is not okay. I mean, this is not okay. The way they omit evidence, the officers who obstruct, suppress, direct critical material evidence, they do it in a sneaky way, in a subtle way, so that even the court watchers don't catch that. They don't catch that due process was denied. They don't catch that, oh, the lawyer's there. Oh, the public pretender's there. He's doing his job. No, he's not. Okay, he's working in concert. Okay? That's because he's getting paid from the same trough as everyone else. Okay? His job is to sit and look pretty. Okay? His job as a court-ordered attorney is to sit and look pretty, not object. To be the Gorgeus George, to entertain the court, given the illusion that they're giving me due process, while denying me due process. That's what it all boils down to. Their so-called expert witnesses and their so-called evidence is jaded and diluted to fit their intentions, their wicked intentions against me. And to say that it's on my behalf, no, it's just them giving the illusion that they're going to give me due process while denying me due process. They've already went over the 270-day time frame to bring it into trial. They've already went over the 270-day time frame to bring it into trial. They've had me arrested without a warrant at my home, without a warrant, posing as the FBI, and also as well the fact there was no signatures on the grand jury indictment. And I brought all of this to the table. They're throwing it all out. So when the time for trial comes, the jury's not going to see that. The public's not going to look on the record and see that. And anybody that's interested in the case, they're going to look and they're not going to see my evidence, okay? And neither is a jury, okay? This is why it's brought up on the court, because it gives the illusion of due process, that I am being given due process. The time trial happens, given the illusion of due process while denying me due process. And this is why there's a lot of innocent men and women flooding the prisons. Okay? This is their modus operandi, how they operate. It's not right to deny someone of their due process, deny someone of admitting critical material evidence, so even a jury can't see it, public can't see it, no one can see it. And this is where it comes to plausible deniability, okay? Where they're denying my critical material evidence in court. That's fraud. That's not due process, that's fraud. And when the jury, that's not what the jury's, they want the jury to see, that they're committing fraud, okay? So they're going to bring their expert witnesses through the court-ordered appointed attorney, the Gorgeus George, to entertain the court, is going to give off the illusion that he is working on my behalf, that he's going to give the illusion of due process, that I'm being given due process, and I'm not going to be given due process. That's what that all boils down to. And they have denied my critical material evidence submitted from day one. And it can explain Judge Jeffrey Fish's behavior from day one in regards to this, saying that I used my son's name and I couldn't stand on my own behalf, blah, blah, blah. You know, song and dance. They're all working in concert with each other. And they're committing and engaging, all the lawyers and the judge, engaging in fraud upon the court, giving the illusion of due process while denying me my rights and actual due process. And by the way of submitting my critical material evidence to the court. This means that when they're denying critical material evidence, they create a hook. And in creating a hook, they're wanting my case to be ultimately lost. Okay? They're creating a hook that says, we're denying the material critical evidence. We're going to submit we're denying that. We're denying her evidence. Her critical material evidence that clearly exonerates her. Now, we're going to put in our expert witnesses and our fabricated evidence. Their intent is to have me ultimately lose. Okay? doesn't mean that I'm going to lose. It just means that their intent is for me to ultimately lose the case. And how the court and how the judge and how the prosecution and the court-ordered public pretender intentionally obstructing critical, clear, and convincing evidence from the jury. I have evidence to prove as well that the court-ordered attorney did not submit evidence into the court or even object one time in my behalf. Even a paid attorney even if I got a paid attorney, they're a part of the bar. So I'm glad I didn't go that route, needless to say. Their whole motive operandi is cause the defendant to lose, the prosecution. That's why we have a lot of innocent men and women flooding the jails and prisons. That they commit fraud upon the court, malicious prosecution and fraud upon the court. The opposing counsel, the court-ordered public pretender, he's not going to raise the fact that the evidence was even submitted into evidence to go before the jury. He's going to go, nope, there was no evidence submitted, and that's what they're going to try to pull on me. This is the major fraudulent Ponzi scheme cover-up, okay? It's fraud upon the court. It's a big Ponzi scheme. It's a RICO scheme. It's a Ponzi scheme to cover up the fact my son was taken from Phoenix Children's Hospital to cover for their medical malpractice of my son. Creating a cloud of litigation to cover up with all of the officers of the court. It's all to entertain it. They're entertaining the jury. They're entertaining the court. They're entertaining saying that they are giving me due process while denying me due process. This is the pretrial. The pretrial is where they want the plea bargain. Okay? They do the song and the dance. They throw out all the evidence. And this is where they do the song and dance, and they go to take it into pretrial. And when they take it to pretrial, this is when they want a plea bargain. This is where they want me to plea bargain, during the pretrial stage. And they keep throwing out my evidence over and over again. So when it goes into trial, they'll look at it and say, you got the evidence? Was there any evidence submitted? No, Your Honor. Given the illusion of due process while denying due process. This is where they want me to plea bargain for and have the summary judgment. And and when it goes into trial, I will no longer be able to communicate to the about critical evidence. If I wanted to go to him with critical evidence, I couldn't even communicate to him, even if I wanted to. And as such, the time is set for trial with no means of evidence of innocence or defense. So they want me to go to trial without a defense. And by throwing out my critical material evidence, that is my defense, to go before the jury, and they're just all going to sit in there, and the court-appointed attorney and the judge is going to watch the prosecution rip into me with their false narrative, their fabricated evidence, and the jury is going to sit there and watch this whole thing play out without even my evidence being brought to the table, my critical evidence that clearly exonerates me. The court will then unleash the fabricated and fraudulent evidence against the defendant in trial. They will be unleashing that on me during the trial. And their loopholes are evil. Every loophole that they have to omit critical material evidence from the court, it's evil. It's fraud upon the court. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's not due process. But they are going to attempt to give the illusion of due process here, which they have not given me due process since day one. First of all, by having me arrested without a warrant. No signatures on the grand jury indictment and going over the 270-day time frame to bring it into trial. So, I mean, and so the whole thing with this is like I said, their loopholes are evil. This is why you have so many of innocent men and women flooding the jails and the prisons. And they're already overcrowded enough as it is. Basic principles that involve facts and evidence. They use their loopholes by using the court-ordered attorney, relying on, they say that it's all about the client's privilege and confidential. And, you know, I CC'd Rick Tosto. I CC'd Laura Anderson as fired. But I CC'd and they got all of my documents. Okay? And as well as the documents that were thrown out. Now, all were CC'd. The critical material evidence was thrown out by all of the officers of the court working in concert with each other. My critical material evidence that exonerates me. This is blatant disregard to due process and the due process clause, and it shows their disregard to due process by giving off the illusion of due process while denying due process, and they have denied due process since day one. Reasonable person. Hindsight is 20/20. That wolf pack, those that are working in concert with each other, they're operating as a wolf pack because they see me as a little baby lamb with a broken leg. They will say there is no wrongdoing. Oh, we didn't do her no wrong. She's getting due process. She's got her court-ordered public pretender. But that court-ordered public defender will not give me a voice in the court. I will not have, if he cannot give me a voice, how is he going to do any better in a trial setting? He's not. They'll say that we're not doing no wrongdoing. And it's obvious that they're working in concert of creating the cover-up and denial of liability. I have positive proof that they're working in concert with one another. I do. Throwing out critical material evidence. I've succeeded them in each one of them. Even the judge. Down to the judge. Their intent is to mirror my claims to confuse the issue. And I'm sure they will try to turn it back on me. It's very common that in making claims, they will try to make a counterclaim against me. Eventually, it'll open the door for defamation of character. I can file a defamation of character lawsuit against them. In regards, because they have defamed my character with lies and false allegations. They defamed my character. And the example of that is how they accused me of 2 felony charges that I didn't even commit. All for me wanting to confirm a doctor's medical opinion. And we have the blood money. We have the trough pool. We have the trough pool of money, the blood money, fueling the fraud for their bonds, bribes, and promotions. And that's revealed at trial, how they will go to all means necessary to cause the defendant to lose, even using fraud, even resulting in using this fraud upon the court. And this is how they use fraudulent evidence during trial. That they're going to attempt to use my court-ordered appointed counsel, Rick Tosto, to ensure that my evidence will not be provided to the court. And as such, with the court to be dismissed, the court to be dismissed. With your counsel petition, they are trying to dismiss my voice and dismiss all material evidence in regards to the fraudulent case, the fraudulent charges that they have made against me. Working in concert. The key plan, their modus operandi, is to have all the officers of the court to work against me. And any of my attempts to expose the fraud has been met with their rulings against me without any objections from the so-called court-ordered pretender. And during trial, this is how they're going to give the illusion of due process while denying due process. At the court, they do not need to evaluate to my course of action due to me having no evidence. I have no evidence, there's not going to be no course of action. They're going to proceed. And they've admitted all of my critical evidence. That's fraud. And now they're going to use Rick Tosto to seal the deal. In other words, the judge does not need to rule on this because the judge will say there is no evidence to the jury. And all the evidence is denied. So that's why they omitted critical material evidence that exonerates me. They don't want that in. They don't want that on record. They don't want that to be brought before a jury. They don't want that to be brought before at trial. And this is how they create a cloud of litigation. In order to create an impression that justice is being served, then both parties engage in extensive litigation to pretend that the court-ordered pretender is defending the client. So they're going to give off the illusion that he's defending me, but he's not. And I've seen through that since day one, with both attorneys actually. So, and this brings me to point 18 of how my so-called court-appointed defender, he's actually harming my case. During the cloud of litigation, he's instructed to withhold all of my evidence. So even if I've given him evidence, he's instructed to withhold it. In reality, he's putting on a good show. He will be putting on a good show as Gorgeous George. He's going to be putting on a good show. For the court. He's going to be putting on a good show. Saying that he's working hard for this or that and etc. when in reality he's not. And it's not what that I would be demanding the attorney to do, but what the court is demanding him to. Their court is demanding him to work against me. When he's court appointed, he's not court appointed to work for me. He's court appointed to work against me because he's being paid from the same trough, feeding trough, and the same blood money everybody else is getting paid out of. True story. The paid attorney will want to be dismissed before trial. In a public defender's case, they're getting paid from the same trough. And all of the parties involved are committing fraud upon the court and legal malpractice. In their eyes, it's completely right what they're doing, but it's wrong on so many levels because it's denying due process. They're giving off the illusion of due process while denying due process. So they make a forced court appointed attorney on record, and he is demanded to work against me. And the blood money is being used against me. And the bad actors are the ones benefiting and not me. They're the ones that's going to get paid from this. They're the ones that's going to get paid from the blood money. They're going to get all cuts for it, I'm sure. They're probably accepting bribes on top of that. But I can prove that they are committing fraud upon this court. I have the evidence that they are committing fraud against me. The judge's involvement, Judge Jeffrey Fish's, and soon to be Judge Fisk. See, the judge is leading the wolf pack. He leads the whole wolf pack. Any reasonable individual seeing even a glimpse of this evil colluded fraud would see there needs to have a federal investigation. If anybody looked at this with a critical eye, they would say, wow, FBI needs to be on this. The judge has to maintain as much distance as possible and let the prosecution rip me into shreds. Okay? He's sitting there, and he's been sitting there going, okay, the prosecution, they're going to rip her into shreds in trial, We're just going to make this excuse and that excuse as to why she can't submit her evidence. Yeah, that's what he's doing. It's a song and dance. So when they get to trial, they can say they're giving me due process while denying me due process. And they went even against their court rules and protocol to do it. And the Constitution. And my constitutional rights. I'll just sit right back and let them rip into me. The defense counsel, even the so-called court-appointed lawyer, attorney, is going to sit there as Gorgeous George, giving the appearance that he's there to help me. They're going to let the prosecution rip into me without not even having given my side of it, or my voice in the court, or my side of it, my clear and convincing material, critical evidence that they have thrown out. Sorry. Paid attorney, if a paid attorney will want to be dismissed before the trial, but all of them are working together in symphony, committing legal malpractice and fraud upon the court. The judge will have the court-ordered public pretender that is being paid to work against me to lead the direction of the fraud. And I've attempted to find an honest attorney. I have actually attempted to find one. And because I found out there really is none. Sad to say. I mean, if they are, they're very few and far between, let me tell you. And the reason why he won't let me be pro per, because it would end the trial. It would not even be a trial, and they know it. They know with my evidence, if my evidence was brought to the table, it would end it just like that. End it. Just like that. Judge Fish and Rhonda Fisk. They're example of this. It's the corruption. The judge tells the attorney that he tells them that he will use the judgment of the bar against him if he doesn't play in the fraudulent concert. They will use that against them if they will use it against the public defender if they say, no, I can't do this. I can't. It's no. They got them locked in. They will threaten or do anything. It means possible to get them to comply with getting away with their fraud. And one honest attorney, Richard Fine, he could not do that. In good conscience, he could not throw his client under the bus. And they put him away for 14 months in jail. but he came out advocating for families and for the reforming the criminal justice system. This is why it's in dire need of reform. It's this way by design, and it needs to change. Okay, there doesn't need to be innocent men and women sitting in prison and sitting in the jails. They don't need that. That's a waste of taxpayers' money. That's when it could be used on housing real criminals and putting them in jail, not targeting innocent mothers that are fighting for our children, and not targeting an evil, how Judge Fish said, I'm court ordered not to even write anything with my son's name. So it even shows even more the fraud upon the court. Them saying that I'm using my son's name in a document, therefore they can't accept it. And I doubt very sincerely if I redid it and that they would accept it either. This is their modus operandi. And their excuse is to make it look like due process, committing committing legal malpractice, while also committing fraud upon the court by giving the illusion of due process while denying due process. They seem to target lower income bracket families. And it's like a pack of wolves picking out the most vulnerable sheep. How much justice can I afford? Okay? A Barracuda lawyer, which costs thousands of dollars. And what is the price on justice? This is why it's organized crime, and it's RICO. It's coming against innocent. It's denying due process, giving the illusion of due process. It's fraud upon the court with the same players in another mother's case at the same time. So to ultimately make me lose in their eyes and deplete my funds before trial, omit evidence, all critical material evidence before trial. And Rick Tosto will be rewarded and compensated abundantly to railroad my case. He's going to be. He's always really proving that by trying to push me into plea bargaining. So I see that. And now it's coming the law motion waltz. It's a law motion dump. The law motion dump defines a specific procedure that results in the law and motion waltz. If he knows he's going to be, if they know they're going to be liable for legal malpractice, if he knows he's going to be held liable, and I called it out that he's liable, I've called it out that I terminated his services 4 times in writing, actually. He has before trial. He's sure not going to do it after trial or at trial. He's sure not going to do it at trial. He's not going to do any better for me, because he's shown he's not willing to defend me and to the best of his ability, and he's just like another Laura Anderson. Their court, as a court forced ordered public pretender, they're paid to protect the court and the interest of the court, not me. That's the truth. And finding a resolution But I'm about ready to take steps finding a solution to this, and because they have committed intentional fraud and fraud upon the court and extrinsic fraud, and there's no statutes of limitation for proving fraud upon the court. And they seem to think that I will never find a factual, active blueprint in chronological order to present this. But I do. I have my facts in chronological order to present this. I've got my facts and my critical material evidence in chronological order to debunk their fraud and to expose their fraud upon the court and their legal malpractice and their abuse of power. And like I said, I attempted to find an honest attorney. They're few and far between. These individuals are few and far between. And in attempting to find an honest attorney, they're prominent businessmen. They're few and far between. If they're big, prominent barracuda lawyers, constitutional lawyers, they're few and far between. If you trying to look for such an individual to expose a corrupt judge or an attorney is futile, because they're all part of the bar, and it's a waste of time and money over half of the time because they are few and far between. And this honest attorney, Richard Fine, he was held in contempt by a corrupt judge. He was an honest lawyer that would not throw his client under the bus. And so he found a couple of complaints against him and used it to disbar him and to throw him in prison for 14 months for not throwing his client under the bus, but now he's an advocate for criminal justice reform. So what I'm going to be doing next is I've got this. I have got actual factual active blueprint in chronicle order to present the fact that they committed fraud upon the court. And not only that, but they committed legal malpractice. And all of this is a Ponzi scheme. I can more than prove that as well. And see the paid public pretender, paid to protect the court's interest. He never sent me any of the minute entries or objected one time in my behalf. Yes, and he was complacent in having my critical evidence thrown out of court. So they did commit fraud upon the court. And I've got the evidence and the blueprint to prove that. And as well as I have got a solution, and I am going to go on that path to that, and in regards of addressing this fraud upon the court. because, quite frankly, they cannot be allowed to get away with this. And anybody that can look at this with a critical eye can see that there's fraud being committed here. There's RICO, and it's a big Ponzi scheme. And their motive operandi from coming against me. So I ask for everyone to please keep me in your prayers and Jonathan, and for his speedy return home, and also for the dismissal of all fabricated charges with extreme prejudice. Thank you all for your love and support. Take care and God bless, and have a wonderful day.